moderating today's session. We have Dr. Praveen Kumar, who is a senior manager from WRI India. We have Mr. Dev Ashish, who is the sector lead of auto and EV from Invest India. We have Mr. Satish Singh, who is a director consulting from Deloitte. And we have Mr. Rohit Kumar, who is a senior strategy consultant, e-mobility, customized energy solutions. I would like to hand over the session to Rajeev sir to take it forward with the other speaker panelists. Requesting all the speakers to kindly switch on their cameras and unmute themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please switch on my camera, please? I'm not given the access.
Sir, I've given you the request.
Perfect.
Can you please stop sharing the screen? Thank you.
Okay. So, first of all, a very warm welcome to all the participants and the esteemed panelists. I think e-mobility team, you're doing a wonderful job in now and then stimulating the EV industry and then poking each one of us and kind of pushing us to ask us, hey guys, what are you doing? We need to do something, right? Thank you very much. And this is Rajeev YSR. I'm Chief Operating Officer for WRI India. We are specialized in last mile deliveries through electric vehicles. Some of our customers are IKEA, Big Basket, and Amazon. Now, without much delay, let me set the context for today. And I will also mention the structure of the panel discussion that we are going to have now. I will set the context in next couple of minutes, and then I will let each of the eminent participants and panelists to introduce themselves in less than 90 seconds time. And then I will direct, we have around 9 questions from the battery perception, and then I will direct these questions to each one of the esteemed panelists. Just to begin with, so if you can see my screen now, there has always been, though on a lighter note, we always hear one particular thing when it comes to electric vehicles. That is the chicken or egg story, right? Is it the batteries first, or is it the electric vehicles first? I think probably in this particular session, with the help of the panelists, I will kind of try to unveil the actual secret of whether it is battery or electric vehicles first. Just to set the context, right? If we look at the battery prices from 2011 to 2018, we see a steep reduction in the battery prices per every kilowatt hour. It all started at around $900 and now we are at around $176 for 1 kilowatt hour. While the battery prices are coming down, on the contrary, when you see the number of electric vehicles since 2014 to 2018 across the world are growing up, which means the very shift that people have been anticipating, that for battery prices to come down, the number of vehicles and the vehicle park to increase, is kind of already, I would say, in motion. Now, let me also add some more information to these 2 slides. Tesla, when they started their initial product, which was around 2008, of course, it's the Roadster from General Motors, which was very expensive. And then later on, their first car, they launched it around $90,000. But then 2016, they are targeting a product at $30,000, which is further a demonstration that the battery, which of course contributes to more than 50% of the vehicle cost, are coming down, and hence players like Tesla are able to make such kind of offers. Not just that, this is, again, I'm sure you all agree with me, right? There are many, OEMs, auto OEMs, which have been existing for decades and even for some of them for centuries too. But then Tesla, a relatively very newborn baby, must be actually taking infant steps. But then in terms of their market cap, they are almost the number 1. What does it mean? That the next fortune and then the next treasure is in electric vehicles. And we also see the same thing with the further aggression of Tesla, right? Now you see across the globe, whether it is in China or coming up in Germany or again in US, Texas, right? Tesla is again opening up these gigafactories, especially to meet their own consumption, right? Not only to meet their own consumptions, but also to become one of the strongest and leading suppliers of energy to the rest of the world. What does it all mean? It all means very, very simple story to us, that the battery supply is going to be very much rampant in the future. There will no longer be a question of electric vehicles or a conventional vehicle, because the cost parity would be definitely achieved. And in terms of the battery first or vehicle first, the batteries I think have already taken the lead. And even here, this is another interesting thing to see. Even among the battery manufacturers, there are very few prominent players who are there, and the market is still open for many micro, small, and medium enterprises to come, fill, and take advantage of that fortune. Now, just to look at the reality of the world, out of roughly 7.2 million metric tons of cobalt that is available, which becomes one of the prime requirement or raw material for lithium-ion battery, 3.6 is almost in Congo and 1.2 million metric tons in almost in Australia. And it is very interesting to see how India is going to really face this particular challenge and emerge victorious, which we will get it from the panels. And also to set the context, the reports say that by 2025, Asia Pacific is going to be one of the strongest consumer and strongest leader of the battery of the electric vehicle batteries. While I said this, I mean, I'm very much thrilled and impressed every time I listen to Anil sir. I'm always thrilled the kind of energy, passion, and commitment he brings towards electric mobility. NITI Aayog anchoring as one of the strong pillars, working with cross functions, whether it is Department of Science, Technology, MORTH, then ISRO, and Ministry of Power. We see there is a very, clear-cut roadmap that is also made for batteries. For example, there is a national mission on transformational mobility and battery storage in dedicated way. And there is also a phased manufacturing plan for battery package assembly by 2020 and integrated cell manufacturing by 2022. Of course, not to forget about the $4.6 billion that was recently announced by NITI Aayog, which is still awaiting cabinet's approval, which is again to encourage and pump in to encourage the battery manufacturers. Now, with this, let me open up the forum to the panelists, and let me take the honor of once again. Mr. Shri Anil Srivastava doesn't need any introduction, but still, let me take the honor of introducing him one more time before I go to the other panelists for them to introduce themselves. So, Shri Anil Srivastava sir, who was the principal consultant and mission director NITI Aayog, he was definitely a self-starting leader. He has extensive experience in plethora of fields like civil aviation, EVs, transformative mobility, public service, program implementation, policy formation, among others. The last 7 years of his experience includes more than 5 years at leadership positions in all the areas of aviation, including 3 years as CMD of Pawan Hans Helicopters Limited and 2+ years of experience leading transformative mobility and transition to electric vehicles in India. Thank you very much, sir. It is great. It is an honor to have you midst of us. And at this point of time, now let me move on to the speakers, starting from Mr. Rohit. Please use your 90 seconds to introduce yourself and what your organization does.
Yeah, so this is Rohit Kumar. I'm Senior Strategy Consultant from Customized Energy Solutions, which is an energy and e-mobility consulting firm headquartered in US, in Philadelphia, and situated in Pune. From my background, I've been a mobility strategy and operations enthusiast with my experience in Bosch China and strategy, Bosch India in powertrain systems. Apart from that, I also had a stint with the Bharat Innovation Fund, which has a deep tech innovation fund based out of India. And currently, I'm leading e-mobility consulting practice at CES. Prior to that, I've graduated from Shri, that's one of the top B school in Shanghai, and the Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands. And I'm looking forward to exchange insights in this panel. Thank you.
Great. Next, Mr. Satish Singh, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm Satish Kumar Singh. I work as a director in Deloitte, India, and particularly I have been working in transmission distribution segment since last decade. And recently, since last 5 years, I have been working on a USAID funded program where I am leading the EV and battery energy storage pilots. Few pilots we are working. So on the EV front, I am responsible for the technical studies and developing the regulatory and policy initiatives. How EV can be integrated in a distribution system, because that is the last milestone where it needs to be integrated. So what are the pros and cons of charging infrastructures there? Apart from that, we are also working on the battery energy storage system, the applications, use cases on pilot basis. Further, the focus more is on policy framework development. So, from Deloitte per se, we are working with state, NITI Aayog, state and central level stakeholders, and more on the policy roadmap, the bottlenecks, the training, the capacity building kind of aspects. So that's
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Satish. And now, Mr. Dev Ashish Aneja.
Thanks, Rajeev. Pleasure to be here. So, I am Dev. I am currently working with Invest India, leading their auto and EV team. So, Invest India is a national promotion and facilitation agency for those of you who don't know. Our main mandate is to bring FDI to India, and I am leading the auto EV team here. Prior to this, I have been working for about 10 years, mostly in the auto industry. So I've been working with auto OEM, component manufacturing, as well as from a consulting landscape. I've seen the industry, been working with JVM Group, Hero Group, and EY prior to Invest India, majorly around strategy and policy. I've executed a couple of M&A transactions, both from buy as well as sell side, done some joint ventures across parts of Asia and Europe. And while at Invest India, we have facilitated several investments in the EV component landscape in the past 18 months, you would say. So also at Invest India, we very actively support various state governments in formulating their EV policies. Whatever policies we have in the market right now, some of those have good inputs from our side. And as we speak, Team at Invest India is in active dialogue with investors across the EV value chain. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dev. And now, Dr. Praveen Kumar from WRI.
Thank you, Mr. Rajeev. Good afternoon, everybody. I am with WRI India, and World Social Institute is the research organization that turns big ideas into action at the nexus of environment, economic opportunity, and human well-being. Globally, we have 7 country offices, and we have presence in more than 420 cities across the world. In India, WRI is known as WRI India, and we have presence in more than 22 cities. We have 4 major programs, which include sustainable cities, energy, climate, and sustainable landscape and restoration. So, cities program, we have 10 practice area, and I am associated with electric mobility. And we are closely working with the key stakeholders, includes government agencies at the central, state, and city level, and helping them in the resource efficient transition to clean transport. Recently, we launched the TCO evaluator, which can be used to explore the impact of various factors on the economic viability of the different EV segments. And this tool can be used to compare the total cost of ownership per kilometer of EVs with their IC counterparts, and understanding from this analysis can help in fine-tuning the incentives, business model, vehicle cost, etc. for the favorable TCO per kilometer for EVs. This can be downloaded from the WRI website, and I'm looking forward to have a discussion on this.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Praveen, and thank you very much, all the panelists. Now, without wasting much time, my first question would be to Rohit Kumar, right? Rohit, help us to understand, what do you think is the outlook of global demand supply analysis of current EV batteries market?
So from a global point of view, if I talk about cell manufacturing announcements, in January this year, January 2020, the global cell manufacturing announcements were to the scale of 2 terawatt. However, within this month in December, these announcements have cumulatively increased to 3 terawatt. So we can see the increase within just 1 year in the global cell manufacturing capacity. And out of that, China has been having the lion's share. By January 2020, it had the 70% of the cell manufacturing capacity announced of 2.2 terawatt. However, now it comes out to be 66% of the 3 terawatt production of battery cell manufacturing will be based out of China, and around 17.4% out in Europe, and 12.2% in North America, with 3.4% approximately in the rest of the world. So we can see that how global cell manufacturing in gigawatt hour capacity is spread out the world. And just recently, there was a news that cell manufacturing prices have dropped to $110 per kilowatt hour for large contracts in automotive segment, and that was news from the electric bus segment from China for one of the orders. So we can see that the economic parity, which the prices indication that you have shown, around $900 per kilowatt hour, have already reached to $110 per kilowatt hour. And coming back to the pack prices, if we consider even $200 per kilowatt hour for pack for India for two-wheeler segment, it already shows a break-even within 1 year for commercial application, like 80 kilometers per day for two-wheelers, and for three-wheelers having 120 kilometers per day usage, the break-even can be arrived in 2 years. And on the passenger car side, if the pack prices are considered to be even $250 per kilowatt hour, the break-even can be reached in 3 years itself. So even at high prices, if you can see the break-even for different segments in 1 to 3 years, coming to the future or deepening dive further into the prices, when the prices drop to by 2023, as forecasted, to $101 per kilowatt hour for the cell. So how the future market adoption would be? It is going to be faster and faster. We just underestimate that what can we do in a very long span of time, but overestimate what we can do in a very short time. So seeing the global trends and scenario, I believe the inflection points in India are going to arrive a lot faster with the reduction of cell prices to be one of the reasons, and with the policy for ACC being announced with the incentive, we just got to see that how much in the global share are we going to contribute in the next 10 years. That's it.
Very interesting, Rohit. Thank you very much. In fact, you are absolutely right. When you have brought the total cost of ownership versus the application or number of kilometers run, right? When we started our first last mile deliveries in IKEA almost 2.5 years ago in 2018 August, this was something we really had to struggle, right? The cost of the vehicles was too high, and then the application, the drivers were not very comfortable going for longer ranges. They are always very close to hub, so that anytime there is a breakdown, they can easily come to the hub, right? But then over the past few years, what we have realized is once we have extended the range, once we have extended the kilometers, and once we have started using these vehicles more and more, the application was increased, then automatically the time to time to overtake the total cost of ownership, we were able to see that coming down. And you are absolutely right, with the batteries slumping downwards in terms of their prices and more number of vehicles that are there on the road, I think more applications would come into picture where the total cost of ownership will never be a real point of debate, but it is taken for granted that EVs emerge as winner. Now, at this point of time, let me ask Anil sir, with this very hot topic that is happening right now. Sir, the recent proposal by NITI Aayog to pump in $4.6 billion US, especially to meet India's EVs ambition. Now, from the policymakers' government's perspective, what is your expectation from the industry to make use of this momentum, sir?
Rajiv, my take would have been that the government is not needed to come out with any kind of scheme or this proposal. Now, the wiser in the industry would certainly realize that where is the potential and then how to use it. Yes, Tesla was given a lot of support by the California government and even the federal government there, and they set up their thing initially. But the way things are and the way things are moving, the industry has to make the best use of it, and they have to get the advantage from the scheme which has been offered, that is the per unit of production and the kind of direct fiscal incentive which is being offered. But along with that, we cannot ignore the kind of technical specifications or the technical evaluation of the battery or the advanced cell chemistry, as it has been talked by the NITI Aayog document, should be there. Let me just say, not many people would be realizing that the battery capacity and the number of cycles which are being assured or the guaranteed by the manufacturer are not really the key parameters on which a battery should be evaluated. It is that how much energy that has been given out by that battery over its entire life cycle. That means over its all the life cycles. Now, a 10 kilowatt hour batteries, what is the cycle? Suppose it is drained by 20% and then you again recharge it, that becomes one cycle. And it is drained 100% and you recharge it, that is also one cycle. But then there is a difference of 80% between the two cycles. And your battery management system, my friend was speaking about it and explaining it right now. But the battery management system has to be more granular as to what his flowchart was explaining, was trying to say. How the anode and cathode of the battery are connected with the BMS. And at what granularity it should be there, that is more critical. And to what extent we can go to the cell level or we can go to the, even down the line over there. So these are the things which the industry must look forward to. There is a opportunity, financial viability is there, business opportunity is there. Now it is the question as to who makes the best use of it. A few other things which probably Rajeev you were saying, whether it's the old chicken and the egg story, I would say that that's a very old saying. We used to speak about it about 3 years back, 2017. I remember when I used to organize stakeholders consultations and all the battery manufacturers and all. Chicken and egg is gone. Now it is going to be the EV and EV. Whether you have the charging infrastructure or you don't have the charging infrastructure. Because the speed of charging is going to be so much that you don't need the public charging infrastructure. Public charging would be there. It will be there just like your diesel or the petrol outlets. You go there, charge your vehicle half an hour time. By the time you order your cafe coffee day, coffee comes and you sip your coffee, and by the time your vehicle will be charged. This is what is going to be the future and is not very far. Second thing, Rajeev, somebody mentioned about the cell prices or the battery prices. Whatever projections our so-called intellectuals or the giants or the big think tank had done, whether it is Morgan, I don't know whether I should be naming them or not, but all those Energy Foundation and the big houses, battery prices are lower than what was the best prediction 2 years back, 3 years back. And it is less than $100 per kilowatt hour right now. I don't know whether the industry is aware of it or not. So that is the scenario in which we are talking. I really don't know what we are talking. I just say, follow the IT industry, follow the changes in the technology, follow as to what is happening in the world. We Indians have lot of knowledge. We are very, very working, and we have the in-depth capacity for the R&D and everything. So let's move forward. The industry should move forward.
Thank you very much, sir. I mean, definitely thank you very much for both corrective and encouraging remarks. I would say in that direction. Thank you very much. Now with this, let me put the next question to Dev Aneja. Now that with a lot of post-pandemic things that are happening, how do you think India should make its move to kind of emerge as one of the winners in the battery business for EVs?
Sure, Rajeev. So before answering this question, I would personally say that we are definitely in the right direction. If we look at the past 18 months from a regulation standpoint, we have seen all the right moves, be it demand-side incentives of FAME or the state policies from various states, or changes in building bylaws, GST reduction, or the recent policies around delinking of batteries and charging stations around the petrol pumps. So we are going in the right direction. Even during the pandemic days, if you look at if one industry which has grown by leaps and bounds, that is the e-commerce industry. And why do I talk about the e-commerce industry? Because EVs directly or indirectly linked to it, in the sense that most of these e-commerce players, especially the grocery delivery players, big baskets of the world, or Amazon, Flipkarts, all of these have committed to go green in the next couple of years. All of these companies understand the economics. They have their fleets. They have their total cost of ownership in place because their fleets are running more than first mile delivery or last mile delivery. They are running more than 100 kilometers a day. So this segment is definitely bound to grow, and EVs would be, EVs would definitely gain from this segment going forward. India is staring at a market of $6 to $8 billion in terms of battery, which is across applications, and EV is definitely a major part of this market. So, over and above this, in the post-pandemic world, we already have our ACC policy in place, which we spoke about earlier. Rohit was also mentioning about it, even Sir mentioned it. So this PLI scheme, the intent of launching this PLI scheme is basically penetration of clean tech at the grassroots level. And we have always had the problem of energy storage. This has been the bottleneck, which we are trying to solve now. This is the focus. So while we speak, bid documents are in place, industry consultations are happening, subsidy numbers are in place, 20% subsidy is being offered on the final sale price to the manufacturers who will be shortlisted for this battery. Budget outlay is already in place, 18,000 crores in the first tranche, which can go much further up to 70,000 crores maybe. So I personally believe this policy is very futuristic. It's not subsidizing batteries for any specific chemistry or any specific technology. It is subsidizing batteries and cells which basically give the certain performance parameters in terms of energy density and in terms of cycle life. And in the current scenario, more than 15 or 16 chemistries globally available are eligible for this ACC scheme. So they fit into the performance parameters of the ACC scheme. As in West India, we are already getting a lot of investor interest for the past several weeks to inquire about the ACC policies. We are doing NITI Aayog is already doing stakeholder consultations, which is happening even today evening, 6 o'clock in the evening. For those of you who want to attend it. As in West India, lots of our investors are even making batteries without nickel and cobalt. Lots of their chemistries are high in elements which India is abundant in. So there are very interesting companies across the globe who are wanting to make use, who are wanting to leverage this policy. And it's going to be a game changer with a high level of localization.
Thank you.
We just have to wait and watch, and yes.
Thank you very much, Dave. As always, you bring different insights and new insights to the panel. Thank you very much. Now with this, let me move to Mr. Satish Singh. So after the post-pandemic and the kind of geopolitical tussle that we have with our neighbor, do you think the India-China current relation will have its impact on the supply chain for especially EVs?
Yes. So the question is very clear, and we all can anticipate the response that China is one of the major supplier, and India is importing more than 70% lithium-ion kind of products from them. So before that, let us also understand. So we have the value chain in battery manufacturing include raw material mining, including lithium-ion, cobalt, nickel. So there has been multifold increase in demand of the same, considering the need for the batteries. Then again, we have cell productions. So that is again important aspect. So one is raw mining, followed by cell production, and then one is the recycling aspect. So when we talk of recycling, generally what happens, these raw materials gets extracted during that process. So that is a kind of benefit which can be derived, but not now, maybe after 2030, when the battery packs have undergone the useful life, and then the recycling kind of things are there. So when we talk of cell manufacturing, there is not only the raw material, so there is a value associated with every aspect. For example, from cathode, anode, then the separators, then there are electrolytes, then packaging, and then BMS and control units. So in these kind of scenarios, the most dependency on this lithium-ion import, India is actually purchasing more than 20% of the total volume is from China, followed by Indonesia, then Vietnam, Hong Kong is also there. USA and Japan are also suppliers from which India is importing. However, this kind of geopolitical risk, when most of the import is from Hong Kong, Vietnam, China, so that is one of the scenarios where we need to diversify our overall import strategies, particularly aligning with US, Japan, and other countries. and trying to go find out the mines which are there. So those things are there. So that's what I briefly summarize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satish Singh. This gives a way to an interesting poll question. I would like Sangeeta and all to take that poll. This is an interesting poll, and I really want to understand the pulse of the audience. Sangeeta, can you please post that question on Indo-China relations and delinking with commercials?
Okay, sir, I'll do that.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, let me. So, with what Mr. Satish said, that definitely the tough in the relation is going to impact on supply chains. Now, there is always a possibility whether to look at it as a half glass empty or half glass full, and I would actually look at it as half glass full, which means this gives opportunity for local manufacturers to kind of step forward and fill that gap. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Praveen from WRI, how do you think the local manufacturers can leverage this particular gap that exists right now and really do wonders? What do you think they need to do? Dr. Praveen.
Thanks, Rajeev. So, in this COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the importance of self-reliance and local manufacturing. And in recent time, we have seen that there are several financial and non-financial incentives at the center and state level as announced to encourage the local manufacturing of key components of EV, including the battery. And there is a lot of focus on the battery because the battery accounts for 30 to 40% of the total EV cost. But to give a boost, it's very important to create a balance between supply and demand. And that will be key to boost the local manufacturing. And the intervention like allowing sale of electric two-wheeler and three-wheeler without battery, scrappage incentives, and guideline to develop supporting infrastructure and other financial and non-financial incentives is going to boost the EV adoption. And this is definitely going to encourage the industry players to explore the local manufacturing instead of importing the components. And local manufacturing will not only help in keeping costs down, it will also help in reducing the anxiety related to the supply chain disruption due to the various factors. Recently, we have seen that the kind of challenge our industry has faced due to this pandemic. And we need to just prioritize the challenges also in the list. So one of the challenge what I see in the future that the availability of the trained manpower to support the manufacturing will be among the top challenges. And this requires a immediate attention and here the close collaboration and effective collaboration, I must say, between academia, industry and government agency will be required. And this effective collaboration can do wonder, can help this collaboration can be between the big and small players in the industry and where industry academia collaboration can help in accelerating the innovation in the technology. Because all these are going to add the cost and ultimately industry will see that economic viability of the system. So if they are getting support from the academic and research institution on the innovation and the technology development and some support from the big players in regarding the demand of the components what they are planning to manufacture will be the key. And definitely the kind of financial package or financial support will be very crucial for them to set up the local manufacturing.
Thank you, Dr.
This
Praveen.
definitely is going to create a lot of job opportunity in India. So definitely, already a lot of things are there in the market, but still a lot of efforts are required to accelerate this.
Thank you very much. That brings an interesting point. Of course, you have definitely clubbed in both points. One is there is a lot of room for local manufacturers now to come up and then establish themselves, and also a need for academia and industry to work closely with hands and glove so that there is trained manpower, educated manpower available. Now, at this point of time, let me also introspect on different business models that never existed 2 years ago but have come into existence just because of the EV penetration. And I'm sure these business models would only evolve going forward to ensure that every stakeholder is benefited in the ecosystem. Let me ask this question to Rohit. Rohit, can you tell me what should be the new business strategies and how should the key partners should identify themselves, especially in terms of commercialization and thus pave a way towards EV battery EV production.
Yeah, just before coming up on the points of scaling up and localization and manufacturing, I will just share some stats on the value chain, which Mr. Satish was already indicating earlier on those points, that the cell manufacturing or the EV value chain is also spread across rightly starting from mining to chemical processing, then to cathode preparation, then to cell manufacturing. After that, we go to module and the pack and the battery manufacturing and then the end vehicle, which is sold in the market. So on the global statistics, within the chemical processing, I'm not sharing any stats as of now on mining. There are enough reserves apart from cobalt, which is concentrated in Congo, as you also said. Within the chemical processing, 65% of the nickel, 82% of the cobalt chemical processing, and 100% of the flake graphite chemical processing happens in China. Within the cathode preparation, 61% of the cathode manufacturing and 83% of the anode manufacturing production happens in China. Even within cell manufacturing, 73% of the cells globally are manufactured within China. So what we can draw a pattern is that China has adopted a midstream strategy. So we not just having a cell manufacturing putting in place, securing the raw materials will make us shine, but we got to have a midstream strategy as well. So if you want to produce, want to have high value capture within India, as it is also one of the mandates within the SC policy, we got to also have a midstream strategy. We got to have processing plants and then cathode manufacturers. But it also depends on what scale can we have that value capture within India. So we've got to encourage not only the material suppliers or only the cell manufacturers and the end off-takers, the auto OEMs, but also the processing units. There are a couple of companies which are coming up with announcements in India only. So for overall supply side scale up and in the production of cell manufacturing, it is not the material reserves which are a challenge except cobalt, but it is the processed materials which are a challenge, which have a bottleneck. So in order to secure that, the cell manufacturers have to have long-term contracts for offtake on procurement side also. The way we want on auto OEM side for offtake for the cell produced, they should also have offtake or the procurement long-term contract from the active cathode material manufacturers, the processed material. So that's the strategy that I would propose. That is required in the market for us to scale up in the cell manufacturing landscape in India.
Thank you very much, Rohit. This is going to be a very interesting point that I'm going to bring up right now. I personally welcome this move I'm talking about, but surprisingly, I've seen not the complete industry reacted in a very positive way. I'm very much surprised with this move that not the whole industry reacted in a positive way. Now, let me put this question to the to definite brains who would have been working behind this, to none other than Shri Anil sir, more to understand what is the objective in bringing this. Sir, this question is to you. Delinking of vehicles and batteries was definitely a welcome move by many of us, including me. Nevertheless, there are still certain counter talks that maybe that should not have happened. Who will take care of the liability of the vehicle? Who will take the responsibility of the safety, etc. We would like to listen from you in this context. How do you want us to perceive this particular new policy change of delinking battery and the electric vehicle?
I don't know whether I've understood your question fully. Delinking the battery with the vehicle, that is something. How is it perceived and for the policy thinking behind it? If that is the question, then
yes, sir.
A lot of you and my esteemed colleagues in the panel have also spoken about the TCO concept, which we have been talking about for the last couple of years, more than a couple of years, as to when the TCO is going to go down and what is the TCO currently and likewise, and it is all linked with the battery price. Now, different kind of business models, meanwhile, were seen for supplying the energy. Your internal combustion vehicle comes as a vehicle. It doesn't come with the source of energy along with it. You don't buy the petroleum or the petrol with the vehicle for say 500 cycles or 500 tanks of petrol along with that. So that is something which was an obstacle for mentioning the total cost of ownership and letting the consumer evaluate or compare apple with apple or apple with orange and what we say. So when you have to compare apple with apple, then certainly it has to be the vehicle without the requisite number of energy source for certain number of kilometers.
Yeah.
Suppose it is 500 cycles, then it goes 5,000 cycles and one charging. Till you replace the battery, it goes to so many kilometers. And that is why I was talking about just before this, as to the capacity or the quality or the technical evaluation of a battery should not be linked with the number of cycles and the capacity of the battery only. Rather, it should be linked as to how much energy that battery gives out in its entire life cycle. So, when you compare the internal combustion engine with the petrol or the battery, that is so it was a very logical thinking, and somehow it prevailed over the leadership also in this area as to yes, the vehicle and the battery are the two things, and because the consumer looks at it as a one unit, that is why the perception about the more cost of the vehicle is being there. Whereas if you look at it, the operating cost of the electric vehicle is about 1/10 of the petrol vehicle. The maintenance is maybe 1/10 of that, and the life cycle of a motor is 2.5 times. So it's a superior product, no doubt about it, and it has become viable because now we are packaging more energy per kilowatt or per cubic liter of the volume and the weight. So that is the reason that now the electric vehicle gives a better product than when probably they were launched even prior to the internal combustion engine. The electric vehicles were introduced, maybe even in 150 years or something like that. So that is the issue. So and then along with that, the supply of the source of energy could also be there with different kind of business models. Whether it is the leasing model, whether it is the swapping model, or whether it is the some other kind of a thing which could be thought about by any entrepreneur. So, and also suppose I have 4 scooters and I may have 3 batteries only in my home. And then when someone, my uncle needs to take out, he just puts in a battery and goes out, and then rest of the 2 people who are to go. So you look at the beauty of it, and then it also may lead to some kind of a standardization, not right now, but I think different OEMs will certainly collaborate. They will come on the same platform to have some kind of a standardization in terms of at least nothing else but at least the dimensions of the battery. So that was the idea that we have to put it separately, and then it should be there. But it's a landmark decision, but then it doesn't make any difference in the overall market economics or the economy of the electric vehicle. Electric vehicle, if some OEM wants to sell it with the battery, nobody can stop this. Apple iPad, iPhone and Apple computers are totally different, whereas rest all are the operating systems are by the Microsoft and thing, but then Apple keeps its identity, and some people don't keep the Android phone and iPhone. There is so many Android phones, but only one iPhone comes with the iPhone operating system. So it is a matter of choice, and let the market decide as to what do they want, what kind of models they want to prefer and they want to adopt.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Definitely, as you mentioned, that's a landmark decision. It really shocked the entire industry, but you are rightly said, it is in the right context and in the right move. And I think for 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers going forward, the only success factor would be battery swapping. And in that battery swapping, there is a need for standardization. You rightly said, battery should be like petrol fuels, right? Whenever I want to fill it, I just fill it and go. I don't have to carry the liability of the battery along with the vehicle's cost. I think you have articulated it well, and you have also brought in terms of the policy also beautifully well. Thank you very much. At this point of time, let me put this question to Mr. Satish. So what's and with this we come to the end of the session. We have covered all the points that we wanted to cover, and such an insightful discussion and such an insightful points by all the participants. Thank you very much, Anil sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Rohit. Thank you, Anish, and thank you, Dr. Praveen, and thank you, Mr. Satish. And it was pleasure and an honor having you on the panel. And great initiative by e-mobility in conducting this conference. And thank you very much, Sangeeta and Pallav. All the very best. And this is Rajiv signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all the key panelists, for your valuable insights. Thank you, Anil sir, for joining us today. Rajeev sir, thank you so much for moderating the session. Since we are running out of time, we'll have to quickly proceed ahead with our next presentation on exploring manufacturing setup and devising cost reduction strategies for electric